Hello, my name is Mark, and I thank you so much for coming by today. If you're like me, you have a bunch of these kinds of sketchbooks kicking around that you've done drawings in from a long time ago, and they just aren't doing anything, so they're just sitting there. And maybe you want to color them in or do something with them. Well, here's a great way to take these old drawings and turn them into something, if for nothing more than just fun and being creative. And what I use it for is a lot of times I will take a picture using my iPad of the drawing that I did, either recent or from a long time ago, and I will store it on my iPad, and I use an application to lay out a color palette for the painting. And even if I never get to the painting, then I just have a great time coloring this picture in digitally on the iPad. Now it's a bit of a process, so I'll go through a little bit of how I do it and why I do it and where it came from. This goes back to my career as a graphic designer and how I used to create logos or layouts or campaigns or whatever. And it carried over into my personal artwork and how I enjoy doing my own artwork now. So you can see here what I've done is I've taken a photo with the iPad and I've just imported it into an application called Procreate. Now, there's a ton of different painting apps out there, and whatever you use, if you use it, then whatever you use is fine. Now, a lot of people have iPads and they don't do this kind of stuff because they don't know they can, or they just never really thought about it. But using Procreate, which is about a $13 app, which may seem pretty robust for a price tag, but when you consider it against something like Photoshop, I personally think Procreate has so many benefits over Photoshop that I really just love the application. I can't, say enough about it. It's used in the industry as a standard, and it's just fun to use. There's just so many things to do with it that it's just a really fun program to use. So I highly recommend checking out Procreate for the iPad if you haven't already. I don't know if it's available for other platforms like the Android or the Surface. You'd have to check that out. But any app where you can import a photo and paint into it, there's tons of them out there. So this is just one of a million art apps that you can use. I've been using this for a while, so I really love what it can do. Now, there are some things that it can't do, like if you're familiar with Photoshop, there's a tool called the Magic Wand where you can select a specific color. And what I like to do in Photoshop is to select the black areas of the drawing and then select that, remove it from the white background, and create a piece wholly unique to just the black ink part of it. Procreate doesn't do that, doesn't allow you to remove that background, but there is a workaround. And what I do is I create a new layer and I multiply that layer. I use the effect on the layer called multiply, and what that does is it allows me to color onto that new layer, which is over the original drawing, and it looks like it just fills in. So what I'm doing here is I am literally just trying to lay out a color palette for this drawing and to see, hey, maybe I want to paint this later, or maybe I want to paint it right after, or whatever, and just see how it looks. I want to see the colors in my head applied to this drawing. Do they work? Does it make a satisfying arrangement? Is the color palette going to work, making one character stand out and the other kind of go back? I don't know. We'll see what happens. And that's the whole point of this, is to have fun being creative and using your own artwork sort of as a coloring book. And it's a blast. And I do this all the time, especially when I go away on vacations or when I have to sit in, recently I was sitting in a garage waiting for my car to be fixed. And I just pulled out my iPad and I have the pencil there, the Apple Pencil, and it makes it very convenient to just sit somewhere and just kind of go crazy with your artwork. And I really enjoy doing this, and this is one of my favorite things, which is why I'm sharing it here today, because I thought maybe this is something interesting to other people. I know a lot of people may do this already or do it in a different way, but if you're not, if you have an iPad just kicking around and you're not using it, this is also a great way to, just put that iPad to good use. Now, you can draw the artwork right into Procreate. You can just use it, as it is, the iPad. You can see on my screen I have a screen protector that I did in a recent video, which has the texture of paper. So using the Apple Pencil on the iPad glass screen with that screen protector is like drawing on paper. It has such a great feel to it, and I absolutely love it. It's just heightened the experience even more. So that's another thing. You can check out that video that I did for the Bellamont screen protector, which I just really love this thing. But as far as what I'm doing here, you can see I'm just changing the opacity now. Once I've got the colors laid in there, the green shirt, the purple for the hair, maybe I'm going to stay with those, maybe I'm not. I don't know yet, because now I'm just playing around to see what looks good and what I like. Now, you can play with different settings. You can see what these things will do. What I'm doing here is I'm just moving layers around, and again, I'm going to use that multiply option here to make it almost transparent, but it keeps the lines there. So the line artwork stays, and you can either color above it or on top of it. However you want to work it is fine. But you can see now I'm using this is the color finder or the color balance selection, and I can change the colors of these different things. So now I had the yellow background now turns to pink, the hair turns to red. This is where I have so much fun saying, okay, I like the colors that I picked, but I want to see what might work better. And that's where I'm having such a good time with this. You can turn down the saturation to see, maybe I don't need a full burst of color. Maybe I just need a little bit of color. And with me, with watercolors, that just means I can play with the watercolors now. And when I paint it later, I can use a real heavy, fully saturated water with a lot of color, or I could use a really thin wash and just get lighter colors. And you can see here, I'm just having such a great time just dropping these colors in. You can see how I can just take the color and just drag it down and drag it right into the area that I want to color. And it's so great. Procreate makes it very, very easy to do this kind of stuff. But this isn't where I started. This for me was something that I did many, many years ago. I was doing this long before Procreate even existed, or even when iPads didn't exist. This is what I did as a graphic designer. So my boss would come to me, or our art director would come to us and say, hey, we have a campaign or a project we're working on, like a logo design. And I need at least 3 different versions of that logo. So not only would I have to create the logo form itself with a font and with shapes, but I would have to create a variety of colors. Now, one thing that I love to do is create a black and white layout. And just to show you kind of what I'm talking about, this was a logo I did a few years ago for this. It was a branch of another company. It was a college that I worked at. And so I create a black and white version and then apply color to that black and white version. I want to get the contrast down to see how the logo is going to work. Once I get some color in there, then I come up with a variety of options of color. Now, this particular logo, the icon that you see on the side, this was really difficult because there were 12 people in the marketing department that wanted to have a say in it. So this logo went around and around and around until we finally landed on this one here. But after a while, somebody didn't like it and said, let's redo it again. And so we presented 3 new options using the same color palettes that I had from before. Eventually, the marketing team landed on this particular logo, and this is what they continue to use to this day. So I'm grateful that they picked the logo and they finally landed on it. But that was just 2 versions of the logo that I designed. There was actually about 8 different icon forms and layouts for that logo. So that logo went around and around for months and months until finally they landed on the last one you saw there. So, but the idea is, in presenting to marketing or to sales or to a client, the client always wants to see multiple versions of their logo or their layout or their website. They want to see different color variations. They may tell you up front, hey, we're looking for maybe a masculine layout or maybe a feminine layout, or maybe we're looking for a neutral layout or an earth tone layout or whatever it is. And they will tell you that, and what they do is they tweak it along the way based on what you're showing them. So for example, if I give them a neutral, grays, browns, earth tones, whatever, sort of a neutral look to their logo or their campaign, they may come back and say, hey, we really want to splash a color. So can we add some orange? Can we add some red or yellow in there? And that's what we do. As designers, that's what we're here for, is to provide visual solutions to complex visual problems, if that makes any sense. Just we're trying to give our client or even our viewer, even if it's just for ourselves and we're just posting it on social media or whatever, we want to give the viewer or the client the best representation of the artwork that we can, whether it's our own artwork, whether it's for somebody else, whether it's a commission, whatever it's for. We want to have the best version possible. So if we're doing a landscape painting and it looks exactly like the landscape that is really there, you know, blue sky, green grass, green trees and all that, maybe there's a little red barn in the back, that looks great. But maybe to be more dramatic, the client wants, you know, or even we want to present a different alternative view with a deep purple sky. And instead of a red barn, maybe it's a slightly off orange, kind of a burnt sienna color. And maybe the grass isn't so green. Maybe the grass has more of a reddish green hue, or the trees have a reddish hue and the grass is green. I don't know. There's a million options. But you can see here in the painting that I'm doing in the video that I'm trying to match as closely to the digital layout that I can to the painting itself. And what I have is I'm using Gallo paints, and it's the larger set of Gallo paints. So I'm just going based on my own instinctive feel and what appeals to me at the time. So the colors I'm choosing aren't necessarily exact to the digital layout. I'm using that digital layout as a reference. So I'm having a great time with this. This is exactly how I like to work. And, you know, this is just an option for me to choose. Now, that final digital layout could have been any colors I wanted. It could have been, instead of yellow, I could have chosen purple. Instead of the green for the background character's face, I could have used, I don't know, yellow ochre. It doesn't matter, but I want this to have sort of a cohesive feel to it. I want it to look like my artwork and have my signature style to it. And yet I want the colors to kind of pop a little bit, and I want this to really kind of have a fun look to it. So for me, this is just that typical old thing I talk about where it's meditative, it's immersive, and I really love sinking into these kind of projects and just having fun. And this is a new way, if you haven't tried it already, this is a new way to have fun with your artwork, to expand on your creative resources. And that's the whole reason I'm presenting this. It's just a new way to have fun, a new way to meditate with your artwork and immerse in a way that is just for you. And the great thing about doing this is you don't have to do it right away. You could take that digital layout, that iPad, once you take a picture of the artwork and you have it on your iPad, it's there. It's not going anywhere. You can save it. And instead of ruining a picture and saying, you know, wow, I should have not chosen that red color, it's too strong or something like that, you have the opportunity to play around with the colors beforehand. Now, in the old days, before all this digital stuff and being able to create a layout, if I did a painting and I wanted to see how it would look, I would just do thumbnail sketches and use colored pencils to see how the colors would work. And that was just fine for back in the day. But this is a new technology that's relatively new anyway, within the past 20 years or so. So why not take advantage of it? It's right there for us. And, you know, I'm just having fun. I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm not looking for anything more. And in fact, the painting itself could be a precursor to a larger piece if I wanted it to be, or if it was for a client or for a friend or whatever. So the digital layout allows me to paint in the small 5x5 drawing I did, which then could turn into something else. It may not be this drawing exactly, but it could be something else. So again, this is just for fun. It could be for professional use if you choose to do it that way. I do this with my clients even still. I present digital options for murals or for just graphic design stuff. And you can see here, here's the digital layout and what it finally looks like. And then there's the painting version, which they aren't exactly matching, but both are different and unique. And I really had fun doing both. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any thoughts or comments, please leave them down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I'd love to bring you more content like this in the future. Stay well, have fun, immerse, and explore. And as always, God bless.